I would say when you first get in, when you first get into University of Phoenix, log on and get into Blackboard to the course, the very first thing I do is I go to the messages, okay? Because there's really nothing here. This thing doesn't blink red. This envelope icon does not blink red or anything to let you know that you have messages. So just go there and check to see if there are any messages, okay? So if I usually will post messages, sometimes I also send them as emails. A lot of people don't look at their email or check their messages. So you know, a lot of the information I send out gets lost or, you know, overlooked. So check your messages first thing. Only takes a minute. All right. And by the way, when I'm doing this collaborate, it slows things down. So, just, you know, be patient. I'm going to try to be patient myself. Okay, I don't think I really need to open this. It's kind of self-evident what it is. There's the course syllabus and the overview right there, if you have any questions about that. Course questions, this is a good place to go if you have questions about the course. So far, I don't think there have been any questions yet. But this is where I recommend you go and post a message. If you have a question, anything about the course, how it works, or anything about your assignment, you might be stuck on a, you know, on a lesson in the assignment, and you just don't know how to move forward. You can go ahead and post it here, and I or your classmates can maybe help you out. Now that, of course, means that you probably should. I always recommend, it's good practice, and of course this all depends on your schedule, so I know that makes it hard for some of you, or maybe all of you, I don't know. But try to get started on the zyBooks lesson as soon as you can, okay? Don't put it off. If you haven't done it yet, let me put your mind at ease. It's almost 100% of students say that the zyBooks format, the approach is a very, very comforting, you know, for a math course. A lot of students come in with a lot of anxiety, and I think, and a lot of students have confirmed this, that zyBooks is a very user-friendly. As far as an online learning system goes, I haven't seen really anything better, I don't think. zyBooks has been a great innovation. I used to teach it before zyBooks. I taught this course, and it was, I felt the students' pain, to put it mildly. Okay, but with zyBooks, things are a lot better, I think. All right. Anyway, that's where you should put questions. Don't hesitate to put questions there. There's course resources here. Now, I'm an instructor, so certain things are, as you see, are hidden from students. Those are for me. But there's a classroom resource center, so if you want some extra help with math, you might go here and find something useful. Okay, so just be aware of that. Students sometimes ask me about my policies. It used to be, I don't know how long you've been with Phoenix, University of Phoenix, but we used to post, you know, that was a major thing. That was the first thing I would do when I started setting up a class, was put together my instructor policies and post that document. Well, we've become more, you know, uniform across the board. So instead of having individual instructor policies, there's just kind of a standard policy, and you can find that in, let's see if I can find it now. If you go to Tools and Resources here, View Course and Institution Tools. Now again, you're going to see some things probably on here that you don't see on your page, because, you know, as an instructor, I can do certain things like publish final grades. I don't think you're allowed to do that. Sorry about that, but that's my own prerogative. However, the policies, you should have access to the policies, so it's right there. You can always go and then download. Actually, I think it used to be only a link to download, but now they open it on the page. So you can see the policies, standard grading scale. I mean, I don't think there's anything unusual here, okay? But it's there for you. So, you know, there's some things to be aware of. You should all know about this. You know, you have to make sure you participate. We're a 5-week course, so if you don't participate in, I think the way I interpret this is, you know, if you don't do anything for like 2 weeks, you're dropped automatically. Okay, so you don't want that. So make sure you're active in the class. As long as you respond to the discussion topics and reply to student responses, you're going to be in great shape. Okay. So, you know, it's important that you do that in your team, within your team, because I don't think if you work on just a zyBooks lesson, that's a third-party application, and that's not really going to count towards your participation. So you could do all the zyBooks lessons and still possibly be auto-dropped if you don't participate in the class discussion at all. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You don't want to face that. Okay. Any questions so far? Somebody say something, yes or no. Okay, that's all I need to hear. All right, good. All right, so moving right along here. So we're in our first week. Now, again, I'm going to see all the teams. You only see your team. Okay, so also, this week is special because it's the first week and you get to introduce yourself. And this is not graded, and it doesn't count for participation. So again, this is purely optional. This is your opportunity to introduce yourself and to learn about your classmates. However, you can say as much or as little as you want. I mean, I've known students who have written a short novel, and I've seen students who were very suspicious of it and didn't want to contribute anything. And either extreme is okay, and ideally it's somewhere in the middle where you don't mind telling us, you know, your favorite type of food or genre of music or movie or whatever it is, your hobbies. It's up to you. Okay, you can say as little or as much as you want, and that's right here. And I've tried to respond to at least most of you with a little question or an observation. All right, and then here we go. This is where the real participation happens in your team. And really, it's all spelled out here, but a lot of students don't read instructions. So I'm gonna try to make this very clear. So every week you're going to get, you know, like a paragraph or something with usually a few, more than one related questions, okay? And you're asked to respond to that. And in 175 words or more, okay? I do count the words in your responses. If you do 175, you get full credit for as far as the word, you know, the amount of words you use. You get full credit for that. If you answer in 500 words, you get the same amount of credit. You don't get more credit. Now I start docking points a little bit if you have shorter messages. Also, it's due Thursday. So today is the first official day of class. Class began today. The week begins on Tuesday and ends the following Monday. So you have today, tomorrow, which is Wednesday, and all of Thursday until midnight Phoenix time. For those of you in California, Phoenix time is the same as California time, okay? The United States has three. This is another thing, okay, that understandably it can be confusing. So, you know, in the United States we have, let me see if I get it right. We have 4 time zones, right? We have Eastern time, we have Central time. So if you're in New York, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Florida, where I'm at, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and a few other states, Virginia, Pennsylvania, I could go on. You're on Eastern time. If you're in the kind of, you know, towards the middle part of the country, like if you're in Texas or Oklahoma, Mississippi, Indiana, actually that's where I grew up, I'm a Hoosier, Michigan, Wisconsin, those kind of states, you're on Central time. Then if you go further west, Colorado, you know, I'm a little shaky there, New Mexico, probably, and states in that part of the country, you're on Mountain time. Now, Phoenix is kind of, Arizona's kind of unusual in that they don't change their clocks. They don't go from daylight savings time to standard time, right? They're always on the same time. So sometimes they're in Mountain time, and sometimes they're on Pacific time. Okay, so right now I guess they're on Pacific. They're on the Pacific time zone, same as California, right? Or Oregon or Washington. Okay, so you know it's super easy to find out what time it is. You know, there's no reason. If I say that I'm having a meeting at 9 o'clock EDT, that means Eastern time. So, you know, if you just type in the internet, go into Google and say, what time is it in Eastern Daylight Time? Okay, 9:17. What time is it in Phoenix?
6:17.
Right. Well, I'm doing it right on the internet, right? So you can always find out what time it is in different time zones just by Googling it. All right. I usually give the times. I'm going to try to do it both in Phoenix and Eastern time, but since I live in the Eastern time zone, I tend to put it in my time zone. I do say EDT in parentheses, which is Eastern time. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay. Anyway, your response to this discussion topic is due by midnight Phoenix time on Thursday. If you're later than Thursday, you know, I start deducting some points. But, you know, you'll still get credit up until Monday. After that, well, you know, after that, then you're really not contributing to the discussion because, you know, after Monday, we're all working in the next week. And, you know, nobody's really reading what happened in the previous week. So any of your contribution is kind of wasted because no one's going to look at it, unfortunately, right? That's just the way it works. Now, by Monday, so you have more time for this, you're asked to give 2 replies, at least 2. You can do more, but at least 2, in response to, you know, something maybe I said or another student said. Now, these replies, I don't count the words. I mean, you can have 20 words as long as it's substantive. And what do I mean by substantive? Well, that's kind of a broad subject. It's very subjective. But, you know, as long as you say something about what the person actually said, you know, something with some content to it. Don't just say, oh, yeah, that's cool, or I like that, or good comment. You know, those kind of comments are not substantive. Say, you know, find something in the comment that you're interested in, that you agree with or disagree with, and say something about why, all right? So point out what it is about what that person said that you're responding to, and say a little bit about why you're responding to it, okay? So that makes it a substantive comment. It could be one good-sized sentence or a couple sentences. It doesn't have to be a paragraph, okay? Also, it's, you know, again, I'm not gonna take any points off for this, but these discussion topics relate to the lesson in zyBooks. So actually it makes a lot of sense that you start the lesson in zyBooks before responding to this. And that's kind of why they want this due Thursday, because by kind of forcing you to respond to this question, which really you can't answer substantively without starting the zyBooks lesson. I mean, actually you can, but it's harder because it does refer to what you're learning in zyBooks. So really, please try to start the zyBooks lesson as soon as possible, so that by Thursday you have something in your mind that will help you give a good response to this. So like I was saying, this is due Thursday partly to get you started on the zyBooks lesson, because it's important to get started on that early, so you don't want to put it off to the last minute. All right. I just also want to point out, you may not have noticed, or maybe you have, I have some weird names for these teams. You know, one of the teams is Kay Johnson, the other one's Inswa, and Casamayor. Okay, I picked those on purpose. If you type in these team names in Google and math, so just take the name of your team and the word math, M-A-T-H, in Google, and see what comes up. I'm going to invite you later in the week to say something about this. This refers to a person who had an important contribution, who made an important contribution to mathematics. So I think that's fun. Some people enjoy it, some don't. But you know, if you want to, it's totally optional, but it gives you a different angle to contribute to the discussion if you want to. All right, but just keep that in mind. All right. Okay. How are we doing? Are you still there? Are you still awake?
Still here.
It looks like more.
Still here.
You're still here, and I see a few more people have joined us. So it looks like, let's see, Arlenea, I don't know if I said that right, but Arlenea, it looks like, and looks like Jody has joined us. I think Sandra and Stephanie, right? What, were you going to say something, Arlenea, or are you going to correct me on my pronunciation of your name?
It's Arlena.
Arlena. Arlena. Huh. Okay. All right, Arlena, I'll try to remember that. I would have left out that second E and just said, you know. Anyway, Arlena. Yeah, if I say your name's wrong, correct me on that one. And all right, zyBooks. Okay. Let me click on that. Now again, this is week 1, so it's a little different than the other weeks. There's 2 chapters. One of them is very short, just an introduction to zyBooks. And then there's chapter 2. Now please be aware there's several sections to each chapter. So make sure you work through each section. And I don't or I encourage you to just go through it step by step. Don't read it and try to understand it and then come back and do lessons. Just read what there is, you know, it's just a paragraph or two, and then do the lesson. Read the next part. Sometimes there's, you know, some animations to go through. Make sure you go through the animation. And just systematically work through it. When you reach a point where you can't go on, you're tired, or you have to go to work, or a kid's ball game or something, you can always leave it and come back and pick up where you left off, okay? You don't have to do it all in one sitting. And to show your progress, they have these little bubbles here. You know, right now they're empty. So there's a big bubble for the full activity, and then there's small bubbles for the individual questions. So I'm going to pretend that I didn't know any of the answers here, and I'm going to answer something incorrectly. So, you know, it says a small point deduction. So, of course, this first chapter is really about zyBooks, how it works. And I really encourage you to do this first, okay? I assume none of you have had a course with zyBooks before, so please work through this. It'll make you more familiar with the way you learn in this environment. Okay, first of all, it says a small point deduction applies if a participation activities question is not answered correctly the first time. I'm going to say, oh, that's reasonable, so maybe that's true. Well, actually, that was incorrect. So there's no deduction. So even if you get something wrong the first time, you know, you're given a chance to fix your answer, and you're not going to pay for it. So you see, once I got it correct, now it's filled in. And then, you know, I can work on through this. Show answer means no points can later be gained for this question. So if you ask to show the answer to a question, does that mean you can't get any points from now on? You've lost all your chances. I'm going to say, hey, yeah, that's the way it was when I went to school, so I'll say that's true. Oh, it's not. Actually, you can let them show you the answer. What it's going to do then normally is it'll show you the answer to that question, and hopefully by seeing the answer you will have learned something, and then it's going to regenerate the question probably with some different numbers, some different information, so you can try to answer it again. It would be a new, you know, it'd be a new answer. So anyway, I'm going to correct my error and see it filled in when I got it correct. Now I'm going to try a little harder. So when a participation activities question is answered and an explanation appears, such explanations can easily be skipped. Well, I would think it's not a good idea to skip explanations. So I'm going to say false here. That was correct. And notice these are getting filled in, but this bubble is still empty. So I haven't completed this activity yet. So even if I answer a question correctly, it counts as completing the question. Well, that doesn't seem right. You know, I mean, you shouldn't really get credit unless you answer it correctly, especially since it gives you so many chances. So I'm going to say that's false. And again, I was right. I'm trying a little harder now to be right. And it explains why I was right. Okay, animations can be completed by clicking on each step, but not necessarily watching each step entirely. Well, it's going to give you a certain amount of time before you can really click to see the next part of the animation. I mean, they want you to watch the animation. They want you to read everything in here. They want you to, you know, actually actively learn. This is active learning, okay? So that sounds false to me. You don't want to skip through an important animation. Okay, so I'm going to say that's false. And that was correct. Now, I've answered all those questions correctly, so now that lesson's done. Now, I'm going to say something right now that I can't really demonstrate since I'm not a student. You know, let's say I was tired, I want to take a break, and I would leave zyBooks. You know, I would close it like that. If I went to the grade book right now, and I'm not going to do that because, like I said, I'm not a student. It's not going to show what I'm doing. I would see a very low grade, and it would say F in the grade book. But I'm not going to cry because I know I've only done one little lesson in one section of a chapter that has several sections. You know, if I only do 20% of something, even if I do that 20% perfectly, I can only get 20%, right? And 20% is 20 out of 100. If you know anything about grading scales, a 20 out of 100 is an F. But that's okay. I'm not done. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do more. And the more I do, the better my grade will get. Okay, so this is a question I get over and over again from students. Why is it? Am I flunking the course? No, you just haven't finished the assignment. You can't expect a good grade until you do most of the assignment, right? I mean, you have to do at least 70% to get a C. You have to do at least 80% to get a B. You have to do at least 90% to get an A. So if you've only done 20% of the assignment, don't expect a great grade, right? You just keep working at it. But you see, I closed zyBooks, I reopened it, and it shows me what I've done, and I just would continue on. You know, if I went ahead, this lesson is worth 10 points. If I did this entire lesson and did it perfectly, I would get 10 out of 10. And the grade would be, let me show you the grade book. I mean, I hope no one's embarrassed by this. It's early in the week, so if you haven't done much in zyBooks yet, your grade will probably be low. Okay, so, you know, like, okay, let me just pick Darlene here. Darlene got a perfect score in chapter 1. I would assume that she's at most done only half of chapter 2. So she has right now a 38.7. As soon as she does more, her grade's going to go up. When Darlene first started chapter 2, she had a 10 in chapter 1, and she had 0 in chapter 2. Once she got into chapter 2, all of a sudden now, the possible points was 50 plus 10, which is 60. But she would have only earned up to that point 10 points, 10 out of 60, which would be an F. So if Darlene had gone in and started the chapter 2 assignment, and maybe just answered one question and then closed it and went back into the grade book, she would have been horrified to see an F. But that doesn't mean she's failing. It just means that she started an assignment and didn't do much of it. So she has to go back and continue working on it. Okay, I don't know if there's somebody else here. You know, here Sandra has started chapter 2. She really should start chapter 1, I would suggest. But she started chapter 2. She's only done a little bit of it. Says she has an F. That's no problem. As soon as, if she does 50 points, her grade would be an A. But then as soon as she opens chapter 1, she'd have 50 out of 60, 5/6, which I'm going to resort to a calculator here. You know, 50 out of 60 would be an 83%. So that would be her grade would instantly become a B as soon as she opened up chapter 1. And then she'd have to do, you know, 10 points worth of work to bring it up to a perfect score. Anyhow, that's how it works. You know, some students like to work ahead. But as soon as you open a new chapter and do a little bit of it, your grade's going to go down until you finish that chapter. Is that clear to everyone? Somebody tell me if I sense or yep. Okay, because I've comforted lots of students by they send me all these panicky messages. I do this the first day of every class. I tell students about it. I post messages about it, and I still get emails of, even in the second or third week sometimes, I'll get panicky messages. Why am I failing this course? And I have to tell them, you're not failing it. Just finish the assignment. You'll be fine. Okay. All right. You know, sometimes you'll come to a question, you just don't know how to answer it. I mean, you've tried, you've used all the help zyBooks can give you. You just can't go on. Sometimes it's just a formatting issue. You know, sometimes, you know, if the answer is 5, I'm just making something up. Let's say the answer to a question is 5. They might want 5.0. If you don't put in 5.0, it's not going to recognize 5 as the correct answer. You have to give it in the correct format. And, you know, usually they explain how that, if you read it carefully, they explain what they want. But it's not always, you know, even I sometimes get caught on that. So sometimes it's just a simple formatting issue and you just can't see it. As much as you try, you just can't see it. But if you let other eyes look at it, my eyes or another student, they might catch that and they'd say, hey, you forgot your decimal point. So one way to do that, I use Windows. It works differently on a Mac. I can't tell you how it works there. But you can always do a screenshot in Windows. Just press the Windows button, the Shift key, and the S button. And actually, you probably don't see this. You probably let me do something a little different here. I'm going to share the whole desktop real quick. Stand by. I'm going to share the desktop. Hopefully it'll work. Give it a moment. Okay, should be sharing again. Okay, I'm going to press the Windows key, the Shift key, and the S key, S as in Sam. And you see a little menu came up here. And you can use that. I can now select, you know, whatever I want. You know, I'll select it. It's now will be copied into the, you know, clipboard, and I can either paste it into some application or I can just open it up like this, and I can save it. I save that image, that screenshot. I'll save it into downloads. Okay, now I should have it saved. And let's say I want help with that question. So I'm going to go to the course questions area. Come on. Here we go. All right. So I'll just type in, this is a sample question with a screenshot. And I want to show the screenshot below. And if I go over here to this plus key where it says insert content, I'm going to insert, no, okay. It depends, this menu changes depending on sometimes which tab I'm on. So actually it's the clipboard here, the attachment, all right? So click on the attachment in this case. If you don't see that, always go over to the plus key or, you know, over there. But it opened up screenshot and it automatically will display this in line if I don't want to. Well, normally you would want to, so you just leave it like it is, save, and there's my screenshot. So now I can share with the entire class the question that's confusing me, okay? And you responded. I mean, that's how I suggest you deal with questions, at least in zyBooks. Okay. Let's see, I had some notes to myself. I mentioned, okay, so I talked about zyBooks lesson grades as team names. Title 9, I just wanted to mention that because sometimes that gets overlooked. So if anyone out there is, you know, I've had students who had issues because of pregnancy, you know, and they couldn't get a lesson in. And then they sent me an apologetic message, and I excused the lateness, of course. But if you're in a situation like that, you have Title IX protection. So just let me know if that's in, you know, if there's any pregnant ladies out there, let me know about it, because there's a form you can fill out, and that gives you, you know, extra time on assignments and things. So just be aware of that. You don't have to let that interfere with your coursework, okay? I assume you're all instructed on that elsewhere within the University of Phoenix, but I just wanted to bring that up. Okay. What else was it? Yeah, I guess there's, you know, I talked about taking points off for lateness or not enough words. Let me show you the rubric that I use. I want you to understand how I grade these. Now, you know, this is early in the week. Normally I do this on Thursday. But let me see. Why doesn't that open? Okay, maybe I just want to get to the rubric right now. Why isn't it doing what I want it to do? Oh, I see why. Okay. I'm in the wrong thing. I have to get in the discussion. I can't grade the discussion if I'm not there. Okay. You know, if I started grading this, I would just pick a student. Well, Dominique. Just pick her as an example. I would click on the rubric. Okay, now, if Dominique, you know, there's 40 points total, okay? 40 points for a perfect score on your discussion. Now, I'm not going to look at this, I'm not going to grade these until a week from Thursday. Okay, all this stuff's supposed to be done by next Monday. And then I give you a few days, and then Thursday I grade the discussions and post that in the grade book. If you do, if you're on time, if you do it by Thursday, then you get 16 points. If you're a day late, you're going to get, you know, a little less than 2 points off. 2 days late, a little less than 4 points off, and so forth, okay? And if you don't post anything, obviously you get 0 points out of that. If you post at least 175 words, and it shows here, it's 10% of the total grade. This was 40%. To be on time, I give you a lot of credit just for being on time. If you post 175 words, you get all of the 4 points, you know, 10% of 40 is 4. If you're post between 131 and 174, I take off a point. If it's 88 words to 130, I take off another point, and so forth. Again, if you don't post anything, obviously you get 0. As long as you don't just post gibberish, and I have gotten some students who I think they use a random word generator somewhere to post some kind of answer with some keywords, but if you read it carefully, it makes no sense at all. But if you make an effort to answer it, I usually give you full credit on it, okay? So you're most likely, if you answered it, even if you answered it with 80 words, you're going to get full credit as far as the content, right? And again, if you don't answer at all, you're going to get 0, obviously. And then the last part is your replies to other students. So you're expected to give 2 replies. They should be substantive. Usually, I count almost any reply as substantive unless it comes after the deadline. Sometimes students post their replies after Monday, and I won't totally ignore them. I'll give them some credit. But the way it usually works is, if you give, let's say you give 2 replies, but one of them comes after the deadline, I only consider 1 substantive. I don't take a lot off. 2.5 points I take off. Not a big deal. If you only give 1 reply, but it's substantive, it's before the due date, you get 5 points. If you give me 2 replies, but they're both late, you give me 2 replies on Tuesday of the following week, you'll still get some points, but, only 25% of full credit. And then if you have only 1 reply and it's late, then you just get, a little over 1 point. And again, if you don't reply, you get 0. Okay, that's how it works. So if there's nothing else to say, I'm just going to click on these based on your replies, your responses, and you can always look at the rubric to know why I took points off. Sometimes it's a more complicated situation and I'll post a message. I'll post an individual message to you, but usually I don't do that. I do like to check if you've posted your response. I go in the grade book and I look to see if you've started zyBooks. If you haven't started zyBooks and you've responded, I won't take off any points, but I'll give you a message saying that I strongly encourage you to start zyBooks before responding. I understand sometimes that's not possible for you. That's why I don't take points off. I think it's important to try. Okay, so try to start zyBooks before responding.